welcome to the Karen Kenney Show. This is the place where we take a no bullshit look at life's little lessons. Here, together, we find the spiritual glory in even the most wicked hard story. This is a journey from fear back to love and how we can find our greatest strength and happiness in some of the most unlikely places. I believe that if you're willing to change your mind, you can totally change your life. So, are you ready to rewrite your story and choose to live free? Let's do this. Hey, you guys, and welcome to episode 61 of the Karen Kenney Show. Oh my God, I'm so excited to be here. And I'm going to keep this one really short and sweet. For those of you who are watching, you can see behind me that there are some multiple musical instruments and microphones and PA systems and pedals and stuff like that. My sweetie is getting ready. We're getting ready. It's his show, but I'm the moderator. I'm like the MC. So we got a show coming up tonight. So you can see like some of my sweeties' gear behind me. Very exciting. Chris Lester over on Facebook, Friday nights at 8 p.m. So a little infomercial for my sweetie. So here's the deal, you guys. Quick one, number 61, called some version of, let's say maybe we're going to call this Take What Works. Take what works. Take what you need. Take what's helpful, leave the rest. Use what works, leave the rest type of a thing. And I'm going to dive into what I mean about that. So here we are in the coronavirus experience, right? In the COVID-19 kind of reality at the moment. And everybody is having really different experiences from day to day. Okay, so there's probably a collective of emotions that we are all touching upon at different points. It could be in our day from hour to hour, minute to minute, whatever, week to week. And certainly we're not all feeling them at the same time. But here's something that I've been witnessing that I think is fascinating. So somebody online. So, and I know that it's an issue when you start to see a meme kind of being generated and shared many times. I'm like, okay, we've tapped into some part of the consciousness that is either needing help or getting triggered, or like people want other people to know this thing. And so one of the memes that I've been seeing has been like, hey, we're not all in the same boat. And then going on to explain how there are some people who are on the front lines, right? They're in healthcare and health workers, and they're going in and they're facing enormous amounts of stress and fear and hard work and exhaustion and tragedy. There are other people who are losing loved ones, both human and animal, and they can't be with their sick and they're dying, and they can't even, at least in the beginning, retrieve their dead, right? Just awful, difficult things. And there's other people who their life hasn't been changed or affected that much, other than they can't go outside, right? But they have plenty of money, they have plenty of resources, they already worked from home, etc., etc., etc. There are 1,001 scenarios here. And of course, we're all having different experiences based on our mindsets, our ability to cope, mental health status, like, you know, again, 1,001 ways that we can all be experiencing this differently. But it doesn't make anyone's experience on some level any less valid than another. And what I mean by that is this, before people start coming for me. Here's what I mean by that is there's going to be different points throughout our experiences. I always think about this on my human journey, on my spiritual life journey. I think at different times in my life, I have needed different things, right? At different times in my life, I have needed different teachers. And I wrote something down just so I wouldn't forget to say it the way that I wanted to say it. And let's see if I can find it. You guys can hear me turning pages. So hopefully, let me see. I guess what I'm trying to say, all right, if I can't find it, then I will, all right, I'll just have to go back to it. But here's what I wanted to say basically. So if you guys know who David Goggins is, okay? So David Goggins is like this hardcore, he's like, former Navy SEAL or something, now a hardcore athlete, triathlete, endurance athlete, motivator, online badass, right? And Goggins is kind of like take no prisoners mentality. He just says like, yeah, you're creating your reality, motherfucker. Like, do what you got to do. Like, it's Goggins, right? Like, stay hot, stay hot. That's what he's always yelling at you. Like, while he's running in the desert with like a backpack on and barely no water, half naked, right? You're just like, Jesus, Goggins, right? So there's a part of my personality that loves Goggins. That is like, oh my God, I love his resiliency and his tenacity and his drive and his make no excuses, right? Like there's a part of me that loves that. And some people on some days through this process might want that, right? I have a friend, Sean Snow, S2, as I call him. He calls me K2. I call him S2. S2 is a world-class triathlete, right? He's been to the Kona championships many times. He used to be a triathlete coach locally here in Concord, New Hampshire, well known by the triathlete community. Every day, Sean posts a motivational post on his website. On Facebook. And there are a bunch of people who every morning they go to hear what Sean has to say about staying motivated, not making excuses, right? He says it a little more gentler than like Goggins, right? But he's still like, let's do this. Now, there's also going to be other people, and whether they're spiritual teachers or writers or poets or whoever, right? That might be saying things in a really gentle or kind or compassionate or merciful, or there's going to be like kind of the team that's all like, now's the time that we take a look at ourselves and we do this and we do this and we do this. And there's going to be the other kind of group that says like, now's the time to practice self-care and take lots of naps and tubbies and listen. And they're all valid and they're all good teachings probably, right? Like I don't know every single one, but what I'm saying is if we could just step back and not get our panties too much up in a bunch of like, how can so-and-so say that? It's the same way that I feel about like spiritual memes or spiritual pictures or people sharing their thoughts or their teachings online. One of the things that we have to remember as consumers is not everything applies to you in this moment. Not everything is relevant for you right now. It's kind of like sometimes I'll see somebody who does a post about some sort of like, mindset or spiritual teaching. And I read it and I'll go, yeah, and ... fill in the blank, right? Like, yeah, like sometimes this can be particularly true, but sometimes you also have to, right? It's like the yes, not to pull it down or like tear it down and say, well, that's not a valid thought or there's no wisdom in it. But it's like we have to be the ones, we have to be like, listen to the heartbeat of our own inner teacher and say, yes, I can see how that might be applicable here, then, now, at that particular time, right? But so again, it kind of follows like last week's podcast, which was saying like, don't drink the Kool-Aid. Just because somebody puts something out there for as content doesn't mean that it's for you or helpful to you. So I just want to keep encouraging you, right? Take what works and leave the rest. And that's the same thing with me too, right? My approach, my style, my particular way of saying things and doing things might not be for you. Maybe it was for you 5 years ago. Maybe it's for you right now. Maybe it was never for you. It's okay, right? It's okay. Like, I don't have to take it personally, and you don't have to be like, oh, she's such an asshole because and I'm not saying anybody, I don't know what people actually say behind my back. I would prefer people say things to my face, but here's the thing. People are going to put out usually what they're going through at that time, or something that they've learned, or something that they find relevant, but it might not mean that it is specifically helpful to you at that particular time. So it's the same thing with me, right? I'll sometimes read an article, or I'll read a book, or I'll read a post, and I'll say, yeah, like I like the first section of that, not quite on board with the section of that, and the whole bottom part, they can just like suck it in a bucket, right? Like all set, like don't, that doesn't apply, doesn't feel good, not going to do it. But who knows, maybe 3 years from now, or an earlier version of me would have totally resonated with that. So I think it's just kind of really important that we, when observing what is out there, because you guys, oh my God, isn't there so much out there right now? Like even my own email inbox, I've just had to unsubscribe from so many things because you can feel completely overwhelmed by the barrage of information. So something that I've said on earlier episodes is, if you already have, whether you want, like whatever, and I often lean to the spiritual when I talk about these things because that's my realm, right? So if I say, you know, or the yoga world or whatever, and I can talk a tiny bit intelligently about maybe a few other areas, but I often say, if you already have some spiritual teachers, who are your spiritual teachers? You trust them. They put out consistently good content. You feel like you're learning something or you're making progress by following those particular people or particular practices. Now's not the time to get all crazy, right? Stick to what you know, stick to what works. And if you open your mind up to other things, just know that it might not all apply to you at this particular time. Sometimes you're going to want a little more, maybe kind of, like my friend Meg teaches divine feminine mastery, right? Like, so sometimes you might really resonate with that kind of vibe. Sometimes you might kind of resonate more with like, and I'll just throw whatever. I'm not like Tony Robbins, or like somebody who's a little more like masculine or whatever, right? But it doesn't mean that whatever other people are offering isn't valid just because it doesn't resonate with you in that moment. And they're not dicks because it's just like, because so many people are like, how can they say that? Don't they know people are dying? Or how could they say that? Don't they know that da 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 da? Well, yeah, I'm sure that they do, but Goggins' job is to be Goggins. My job is to be me. Meg's job is to be Meg. Marianne Williamson's job is to be Marianne Williamson, right? Like, so you just go around and everybody has their own divine intelligence. They have their own divine, what I call assignment, right? Call it the individual curriculum, whatever it is. But I just know when I wake up in the morning, I'm not told to be more feminine or to be more like Goggins or to be more like Brene Brown or to be more like this one or that one. My assignment is to listen deeply, prayer, meditation, contemplation, right? Be the channel, right? As Rabindranath Tagore, how many times have you guys heard me say this, right? Everything that belongs to you will come to you if you create the capacity to receive it. So you just go about the work of creating the capacity to receive what is yours, but not everybody's message is going to be yours at this particular time. I can't tell you, even like with me, when I first started reading A Course in Miracles, Jesus Christ, those first couple of years, I must have thrown that book across the room a few times and I was just like, Jesus, right? You're killing me right now. Suck it in a bucket. I just wasn't ready. And I always say, this is the beautiful thing about Holy Spirit, right? Your inner teacher, is that you will be delivered, right? I always say your inner teacher isn't going to bring to you what you're not yet ready to receive, right? You'll get what you need to know you'll know what you need to know when you need to know it, if you're really deeply listening and doing the stuff that you need to do to sit your ass down and get your mind quiet consistently. So a little discipline and devotion goes a long way. And when you're kind of in that and you go, oh, that's for me, and you know it's for you because it resonates, because you get a full body yes, because you're like, oh my God, that really landed in me. And there'll be times when I'll be with somebody who I love really well, like a friend, and they'll share something or they'll say something to me and they're so lit up about that particular teacher or that particular post or whatever the thing is, and it just doesn't land for me. Like, you know, if you ever go to an event and there'll be a speaker on stage and some people are like leaning forward, like, hanging on every word, and other people are sitting back with their arms crossed, and like you can just see it in motion, right? You can just see it unfolding in real time. So here's the thing: take what works and leave the rest. Take what you need, and don't get too upset if you're like, oh, that person. I mean, there are going to be times, of course, where somebody might be delivering some information and it will seem like they are just so out of touch, right? I think this happens sometimes. I'll often say, if you don't know who your audience is and you don't know who's actually in front of you, right? You have to speak to kind of who's in front of you. But with social media, everybody's kind of in front of you, right? Especially if you have a large following or more than just your friends and family, like kind of peeking into what you're putting out there. And those of us who are spiritual teachers or who are teachers of any kind, right? Whether you're a coach or whatever, we are often putting out content. I don't expect what I put out there to work for everybody. I don't expect everybody to like me. I don't expect everybody to get me. And in fact, like if you do your marketing well, if you have quote unquote a business or a brand, if you do your marketing well to fully represent you and what you offer, it will naturally attract and equally repel. And that's what good marketing should do. The people who get it and they're like, yeah, that lands for me. It should be apparent when they see your words or your content or your videos, like, oh my God, yes, that's my girl. That's my person, right? That's my coach. That's my mentor, right? That's my teacher, whatever the word is. And other times you'll just go, oh, no, 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 no. I can't tell you how many times I'll see something and they'll be like, so many people will be liking it and I'll just be going, no, 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 no. And like another part of me is like, oh, don't reward that. Don't reward that, right? It's like, oh no, right? But hey, they might be in a different time or age or place or mindset in their development or their life or whatever it is, their relationships, than I am. So it's not for me to sit there and like judge it. Sometimes I might not understand it, right? Sometimes my ego mind, Vicky with 2Ks from Lawrence, has fucking something to say about it, right? But we don't let her drive the bus. I just go, oh, that's interesting, right? So when I find myself either responding negatively to something or it feels like, a button's getting pushed or whatever the thing is, I just always try to stop and catch myself and go, oh, that's really interesting. And sometimes you're just going to know. You're going to see enough, right? You're going to see enough posts or conflicting, what I call cognitive dissonance, where what's being said is not what's being lived, or you're going to start to feel like, oh, that doesn't resonate, or that doesn't feel right, or whatever. And then you'll just decide to not consume any content from that person for a time being or forever, or whatever, not being in relationship or not being, a part of a group anymore. Haven't you ever just joined a Facebook group at like some point and then you look back and you go, oh, no, 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 like done, right? So we change and grow. And remember, online, everybody's kind of operating from different ages, perspectives, cultures, races, backgrounds, sexual preferences. Like there is so much coming into the mix. So we don't have to, like I said, get all worked up and pissed off. I mean, again, sometimes people will be a little out of touch and you'll see it and you'll just be like, yeah, they don't get how quote unquote, whatever, fill in the blank, blue collar people think, or yogis think, or so-and-so think. Like that's not going to land, but maybe they weren't trying to land with you at all. So I guess I just want to invite you to keep discovering during this time, especially because, we're deciding right now who and how we're going to be when the world swings open the doors of social interaction in person. Right now we're kind of in, I keep calling it like the cocoon. Right now we're in the place of discovering like, who are we and how did we fucking get here? And then who are we and how are we going to be when we start going back out? Like right now is really a time to discover, what do I want to bring forward from my past, which actually still works and is helpful? Like practices or people or programs or whatever it is, right? Relationships. And it's also looking forward, like, what do I want to keep from what I'm discovering now? What do I want to chuck it in a bucket, get rid of it, right? And what do I want to work more on or keep creating? So now's a really kind of fertile time. This is like a time of gestation where we're birthing a new world. We're birthing what could be. Because clearly what was happening, whatever, that normal, right? It wasn't working. It clearly was defunct. It wasn't normal after all. So here we are. And so as we're out there kind of like, we're socially still connecting, even though we're physically apart. And so everybody's dumping everything more so than ever, like online. And you get to, like, sometimes it's treated like a garden. There are going to be things or accounts or people or words or posts or people you follow, right? Accounts that you follow and where you go, that, or teachers, whatever it is, and you want to water that. You want to nurture and nourish that connection because you're like, oh, this helps me to grow. This is really fertile. I like this. There's going to be other weeds where you're just plucking those suckers, right? You're just like, boop, 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 gone, right? In the rear view mirror. And it's all okay. It's all okay, right? We just need to be kind about it. We need to stay open. I always say, keep your ears open, keep your mind open, keep your heart open, keep your hands open, because love does not happen in a contracted state. And anytime we start judging each other, and I'm going to probably do a whole other episode just on judgment and discernment alone, because I think there's a lot of confusion about that. I think sometimes when you make a decision that something isn't for you ever, or isn't for you anymore, other people can get weird around like that. Like, oh, you're being so judgy. What about forgiveness? What about this? And I'm like, look, sometimes there are different distances for different relationships, right? If you haven't listened to Finding the Right Distance, we all get to decide for ourselves what works, what's true, right? What lands, what feels relevant, what feels helpful. So I'll just say it one more time before I go, you guys, right? We just have to find out for ourselves. So you get to consume as much as you want. And that's what I often do, right? Is I take a look at, can you figure out the difference between the teacher and what they're teaching, right? Between but what's being offered, and just kind of say like, oh yeah, I'm going to cherry pick this because I don't necessarily like this, but this really landed and this was helpful. And there are going to be days when you want Goggins screaming in your face. And there are going to be days when you want, Thich Nhat Hanh just sitting down and being really calm and chill. Some days it's Adi Ashanti, and some days it's like Shanti, right? Like, let's go, So there are like the people who bring love and light into the world through different channels and different energy frequencies and different reasons and different approaches. And it's like a kaleidoscope. And you just kind of keep twisting the nozzle till you find, the display of color that you really resonate with. And you're like, oh yeah, that's my jam. Like, that's my energy frequency, and that works for me. Okay. So you guys, even I say even and especially with my stuff too, I'm not going to be everybody's particular flavor, right? It's not everybody wants to listen to this. And there'll be some people who used to resonate with me and now they don't, and vice versa. And it's all okay, right? It's all okay. People are free to come and go. Take what you need, take what works and what's helpful, and leave the rest. And maybe we can leave also our judgment and our criticism, and just knowing that, if we're all given a divine assignment, maybe what's being offered, even if it doesn't work for you, it works for your brother or your sister. It works for somebody else who needed to hear it. And that can be a really beautiful thing. So I'm going to end there, you guys, and just know that I'm thinking of you so much. And I'm actually, one of the things that's been kind of coming up for me, and I've learned, I'm getting better and better at kind of sharing, like, as things kind of come up. Oh, I got like maca all over my arm. I just noticed. Oh, okay. So I'm thinking about this idea about how I can connect with more of you. In kind of like, I keep thinking about this as like, I always talk about with my clients, it's like when we're together, when we're working together, whether it's one-to-one or in a group program, it kind of feels like we're in this safe little nest. We've kind of created this safe little nest. And then there are times when the time comes when the baby birds like leave the nest, but sometimes they don't, like they leave and then they're kind of freaked out. And it's like, okay, so I've been dreaming of like maybe creating this safe place, maybe a little like membership, a monthly membership in a community where there's a lot of connection and there's good content that's helpful and not overwhelming, spiritual content to help us navigate these days of our lives, not just these days, but all the days, of how we can start to have maybe, because one of the things I see a lot of is that people can feel like that there's a lack of sacredness in their life. Like they'll have everything, but something still feels like it's missing, or they find a lot of like, they have low grade, like, or high grade, like, anxiety, or they're just finding themselves, in a place where they could really use more access, just like conscious access to spiritual power. So I've been thinking about maybe creating a little membership, a monthly membership. So I'd love to hear from you guys if that resonates with you. And I can obviously tell you more about it. So if it is something that resonates with you, send me a direct message or send me an email, Karen@KarenKenney, KENNEY.com. And let me know if that's something that lands in your heart, because I'm thinking about putting a little something together for you beautiful people and for me to connect and communicate, have communion. I think it'll be wicked fun. So wherever you are right now in your journey, right? Whether you need somebody to really cheerlead you and be your balcony person, or somebody to just sit quietly with you and hold your hand, there is help out there. There are different kinds of teachers available to you. If I'm one of yours, then just thank you so much for being in my life and a part of my community. It means so much to me. If you can hear the sound of my voice, if you're still listening, I know that somehow we have found each other and we are together, and I appreciate you, and I see you, and I celebrate you, and I'm grateful for you, and I love you. And just remember, you are the light and the love of the world. And so wherever you go, may you leave the people, the places, the animals, the community better than how you found it. Wherever you go, may you be a blessing. Bye. Hey, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Karen Kenney Show. I super duper appreciate your time, friendship, and support. And look, if something that I shared from my heart today somehow landed in yours, I'd love to hear about it. So please tag me on Facebook or Instagram or IG stories or wherever the cool kids are hanging out these days, and let me know what your favorite part was or what you found most helpful. You can find me over at Karen Kenney Live. That's Karen, KENNEYLIVE. And if you're digging what I'm saying and you want to hear more, I'd be wicked grateful if you could go to iTunes and subscribe and leave a review, because you guys, that's how you'll help me to keep spreading the love. And if you can think of someone that could benefit from hearing this episode, please share it with them. I'd also love to stay connected with you. So if the feeling is mutual, please go to KarenKenney.com/freebie and download my free guide to building your spiritual team. Until next time, my brothers and sisters, keep living in the fearless flow. Know that I see you, I appreciate you, and I love you. And wherever you go, may you be a blessing.